So here we are. This is the Riverstone factory in Topeka, Indiana. Nick, you know I've been a big fan of Riverstone.
Well, we've been a big fan of you.
Well, the important part here is that people understand that you guys haven't sponsored me. You've never sponsored a single video I've ever made. You have never sponsored my travel or a trip. And everything that I've talked about in terms of quality, what you guys do that's different, it's all been based off of what I've seen in dealerships and what I've seen at open house and other events. But can you confirm all of that to my viewers and subscribers?
That is correct. I think you had a couple million views on Riverstone videos before we ever met. And this is probably about the 5th time we've talked in person or on the phone. So from afar, we've appreciated what you've done, and happy to get you in the factory finally.
I wanted to come out here because I knew it was important for people to understand when I talk about things that I like, and I say that I'm a fan of something, there's substance to that. I'm not just saying it. I'm saying it because there's things that I see that they're doing differently. And with this whole kind of controversy going around about RV quality, I felt this was a really, really important segment to make because people want to know, can you buy a quality RV? And the answer to that is absolutely. Now, here's the point, and I don't know if Nick wants me to make this point, but you're going to pay more for that. You're going to pay more for a quality unit if you want that unit to be built at a slower pace, using better materials, with better methods of assembly. And that's the reason why we're here today. And there's some things that I definitely want to stop and pause when we get to, and I think Nick already knows what those are, related to some controversies going around the industry. So this right here is a Riverstone frame. This thing is a beast. This is cool. Now, I'm going to point out some things, and I'm going to let Nick talk because he's actually a true expert with the Riverstone product. But the reasons why I like Riverstone, let's just throw that out there because these are things that I see on dealership lots. When you see a Riverstone, first of all, you look at this whole upper deck area. You look at how all of this is structurally made. You see how far back this main upper deck beam extends beyond just the front riser right here. The way they design their frame, to me, is second to none. It's an absolutely amazing frame. And these are Lippert frames, but it's a very custom build for Riverstone, and you all dictate that build. Now, I'm going to hand it over to you, and please talk about this frame and tell us what's so great about it and everything about it that you'd like to share.
So we obviously work pretty closely with Lippert on the frame. I mean, they have a ton of engineering over there. One thing we've done since day one, and we have been insistent on keeping, is the all-steel upper deck. So in a traditional fifth wheel, your steel is going to come down in the front, and the rest of your upper deck steel is going to come down here. You're going to have anywhere from 20 to 30 inches of steel, and then the rest of this mid deck is going to be built out of aluminum. On top of that, smaller drop frame I-beam area. We run the steel all the way back, and that helps to disperse the road stress over a bigger area of the frame. You know, it's something I'm not going to say I've never seen an issue. We have very, very few frame issues, so it's something we are not willing to bend or break on. It is probably I know it's one of the more difficult frames that Lippert builds because every unit is so custom. You know, in a standard fifth wheel company, that upper deck is identical on every single unit, and the rest of the frame will have some changes.
Yeah.
Every floor plan we build, every piece of it is going to be custom. But as you move backward on the frame, we've also taken all of our triple axle floor plans to 12-inch, they call it monster beam. So it's a 14-pound per foot I-beam instead of a 10-pound per foot I-beam. So that's going to help as you have that camber. It's going to help from losing your camber. It's just going to hold up and be sturdier and stronger on these bigger, heavier floor plans. You know, a lot of us are building, since the RVIA square footage requirements went away a couple years ago, a lot of us are building floor plans that are 440, 450, 460 square feet. They've got 5 slides, 6 slides instead of 3 or 4, more holes in the wall. So you're not getting as much strength from the wall as you once were because you have more holes in it. So we're building on a bigger, heavier foundation. And that's part of where that extra weight's coming in when you look at our units too.
So that's a good point that you just brought up. A lot of manufacturers focus on the size of their unit, and they're trying to keep them under a certain GVWR, which I know that that's always something you have to be cautious of, but it's not as big of a focus for Riverstone to try to keep the weight down, right?
Yeah, with our 3-inch walls, just the sheer size of our units, but with our frame, the 3-inch walls, dual pane windows, a lot of the standard amenities that we're doing, dishwasher, washer, dryer, most of our units are 3 ACs. The weight hits a point where you're going to be a 1-ton truck. If you're going to be a 1-ton dually, then up to, you know, we're at 24K GVWRs on 8 of our 9 floor plans, or right around 24K. At that point, you're a 1-ton dually. It doesn't matter if we cut it down to 22 or 21. You're pretty much a 1-ton dually, especially with hitch weights around 3,500 pounds, give or take a couple hundred, depending on the floor plan. But if you're trying to provide a unit to somebody that's a 3/4 ton truck owner on a fifth wheel, you have to be a lot more conscious of the GVWR and, more importantly, the dry weight. Because no matter what that GVWR is, the customer is going to load your average customer the same amount of stuff in it. Whether you give them 1,200 pounds of carrying capacity or 3,500, the average consumer is going to load what they need to go on the trip.
Would you say that if you compared the weight of your frame as it is right here, basically this isn't a completely, you know, bare frame, there's some stuff in it, but if you compared the weight of your frame as it rolls into the back door to a traditional weight of a toy hauler frame that has like a 21,000 GVWR, your frame, I would imagine, is significantly heavier.
It's going to be more. I mean, just in the 12-inch I-beam alone, you're going to have about 250 extra pounds, 4 pounds a foot. You got, you know, 2 of them running 30 feet on the unit.
Yep.
And the upper deck, I don't want to give you an exact weight. I would guess overall you're going to be in the 500 to 700 pounds heavier weight range. I did a comparison at one point in time on the frame and the walls, and I think I was, between the two combined, we were somewhere between 1,000 and 1,300 pounds. Okay. And that's when you look at our units, the average weight. If you put a competitive product around the same size and add the extra AC, add the dishwasher, the washer dryer, some of those items, we're usually within about 1,000 to 1,500 pounds of the competition then.
Okay.
So
now, when I look at the structure here, a lot of folks, they look at videos like this from a distance and they can't tell, but that's 1/4 inch thick box tube. 2 by 8, is that an 8-inch section? That's an 8-inch section of tube, right? Versus 6, which you typically see on a lot of units. So a lot of people don't realize that the segment height or the sectional height, as well as the thickness, has a lot to do with strength. If this was only 6 inches tall versus 8 inches, it wouldn't have the same strength as an 8-inch tubular beam. And then it looks like 3/16 inch right here going down.
Well, if you notice, even underneath that entire built upper deck area, then you have these, be a 2x4. But anyways, you got an actual steel structure under that as well that's tying it together. If you drop down to even when we did a lot more 21K upper decks, that piece there wasn't there.
Okay.
Just this went directly onto the risers. So as we've increased, there's some challenges to that as well. So when you go through the pass-through storage, now this isn't flat to finish off in here anymore, right? So there are some challenges, and that's part of these bigger, heavier, more, not custom, but closer to custom type build. A lot of guys, it's hard to get into at a production volume. That's why we run 4 units a day and not 15 or 20 or 30 or 40. Which there's a lot of guys that build great products at those rates, but it's a different kind of product for a different kind of buyer.
And we're going to divide this into several videos because I think there's so many people who want to see the frame. This is a big part of it. We're going to spend this first video just talking about the frame because there's so much here to talk about. And to show how custom it is, like I said, we look at this back piece. It looks like it's 3/16 inch thick. But then you look at the front box section, and that's a 1/4 inch thick. Plus, they have gusseting right here, reinforcement plating. And a lot of people are under this theory that you have to have some huge gusset right here to be able to support this portion. And that's just not accurate. Every engineer I've ever talked to who designs RV frames, even companies not related to Lippert, even gooseneck trailer manufacturers, often will tell you that it depends what structure is going on right here on whether or not you need a gusset right here.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton that plays into it. You know, your walls too. Having quality walls makes a huge difference on your frame. If we just loaded this frame to 24,000 pounds right now, we would have a ton of flex. The wall adds a lot of strength to the frame as well.
So let me ask you, let me interrupt you there, because a lot of people need clarification on that. When I've made videos talking about that, because that's what I was told. I was told that the wall being properly attached makes the structure rigid, or more rigid. That the frame only flexes a certain amount, but then you put the walls on and the walls stiffen everything up. And people are like, how on earth can thin-walled aluminum with wood inside of it and foam, which is typically what you see. I know you do your walls differently, so we're going to get to talking about that, because that's kind of over here. But how can that truly create a solid structure?
I mean, it's a combination. Whether you're talking a cargo trailer to a fifth wheel this size, if you just put sidewalls on it and you go up there, you're going to move those sidewalls. Then you put the roof rafters on, and all of a sudden it's sturdy. When everything gets tied together, you're attaching it throughout the frame. You're attaching the floors to the frame. You're attaching it to the side of this frame. And you're attaching the wall to the frame. As you tie more things to this frame and you're attaching it in more points, you're attaching it properly, you're adding more structure to the frame. Even though it's not as strong as just the steel, when we look at our walls, we stuff the front tubes of our walls with wood. That wood inside of the aluminum helps stiffen the aluminum, even though the aluminum's stronger than the wood we stuff it with. And our wall build allows us to do some different attachment methods too. You know, we're not a laminated wall, which we'll get into down the line, but allows us to get inside of that wall for some of the attachment points.
So Nick, real quick, let's go on a quick front to back tour and just let's talk about this frame. Let's see what it's all about. We talked about some aspects of it, but I think it's important for people to see the overall structure. First of all,
so up front, you're going to be a 6x8 tube. You're going to be attached with 2x8s on the side. As you run down the frame, you're going to see steel stringers going all the way back through this upper deck section. Some angled steel here, or flat stock coming off the side end.
This is what the sidewall rests against, right?
Sidewall rests on there, as well as on the floor in the rear. Kind of hit on this 2x4 with your vertical 2x6s. So it's all steel, the all steel upper deck. Then you're running down to the monster beam with the cross members, the outriggers. You're going to see a lot of hydraulic slides on our units. Anywhere we're on the main floor, we're a hydraulic slide. Anywhere we have a bed slide is a hydraulic slide.
So I've been told, and this was actually by dealership, so it wasn't by you guys or anybody else, that the slide out mechanism that you use is larger than what most RVs have.
So you can do a 2-inch, or I believe this is a 2.5-inch tube is what we're using on most of them. This is going to be just a little dinette slide. That's going to be a kitchen slide with a stove in it, so it's going to be a heavier slide mech. So some of our lighter slides, we won't necessarily go to the 2.5-inch. But anything that's got some real weight or potential to have weight in it, we're going to go to the 2.5-inch.
And that is a very thick beam.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the unit that has the garage in the back, right? Kind of the mini toy?
It's similar. When we do the garage, we actually drop it in the rear. So this is the one that's got the 110
the tray.
Moride pull-out tray.
Yes.
So.
And that's what you mount it to?
Yeah, we don't skip on that either.
Check that out. That's an inch thick.
So, and then because of trying to pick up the extra space, you're not insulated under here, but we do insulate the upper floor. So this will have a raised second floor in here. And that second floor between your actual inside of the unit is going to be insulated. Under this is just going to be enclosed. We do put some heat down into there as well, though, depending on what you're storing in there.
I also see the way that you have your leveling system attached is different than what you typically see. Typically, you just see some brackets coming off right here with the flat plate. But this looks very, very structural to the actual I-beam itself.
Well, and part of this is a new style jack that's out. I know not everyone has moved to it. I'd imagine you're going to see more and more guys going this direction. But this jack, how it mounts and how the hydraulic lines are hooked up are differently. It should be supposed to be easier to replace if you ever have an issue. The bolts are going to be easier to get to. The lines are also easier to get to. It's also improved seals with fewer seals, so less potential for leaks. I know over the years, if you've had enough RVs, you've had some type of a seal go bad in a hydraulic and start a slow leak. So this jack is supposed to take care of a lot of those type of issues.
Okay. I'm looking at the suspension right now. I see that you do have the angle supports here to reinforce the shackle hangers. Looks like heavy-duty shackle straps, greasable wet bolts. I wouldn't expect any less on a RIVERSTONE. Cooper Works tires. How do you feel about those tires?
You know, the Cooper's a great tire. Their parent company is Goodyear. We've ran them both in the past. We did not see much of a difference in failure rates between the Cooper and the Goodyears. We thought for the value, the Cooper at a 17.5-inch rim, H-rated tire was a far better value for
than a
customers.
G-rated, for sure. I see that you're using the Lippert Road Armor suspension. I'm a big fan of this suspension. I like how it works, but I do know that this isn't the only suspension offering you have on a Riverstone, right?
That is correct. We do offer Moride independent suspension, and actually we can pop outside and get you a view of what those axles are. So it's a completely different axle. So these are the Moride axles. These are a set of the 8Ks, which is going our 39 RKFB. When we do a triple axle, it'll be 777s. But this suspension, you got a torsion arm here. Obviously, there's a ton of greasable parts on this as well. Then you have a gas shock, and you have a Moride rubber suspension block.
Rubber shear spring right there.
Yep. So,
and you have disc brakes.
And these are going to be Kodiak disc brakes.
Yep, and you offer disc brakes on your standard leaf sprung suspension as an option too, right?
Yes, and you're going to see a lot of Riverstones out in the marketplace or Riverstone Legacies. Part of that legacy package is upgrading your axles to disc brakes. So 85 to 90% of your Riverstones are going to end up with disc brakes.
So when it comes down to it, any upgrade is one that a dealership would have to spec into a unit that they order for sale. But do you truly see this as a benefit for dealerships for their consumers to go with disc brakes over drum?
Yeah, you know, disc brake is gonna have superior stopping power. When you look at the automobile industry, there's a reason that our trucks and our cars don't still use drum brakes. Right? Drum brakes get the job done, and obviously from where they were 20, 30 years ago, there have been improvements in the pads and some of the technology there. But the disc brake, if you're straight line, pure stopping power, a disc brake is going to stop you faster.
Yep. And it's going to also cool down a lot faster, too.
Yes.
It's not going to generate nearly as much heat. It's going to cool down a lot quicker as well. Real quick, talk about how you move the RVs down the production line, because that's a little different than how a lot of manufacturers do it.
So the frames are going to come in. We don't have the next one in yet. And then we're going to put them through on a dolly on the pin box so that it's going to simulate the road stress when it's hooked up to the back of your truck while we're building it. Instead of being on the front jacks, which is more of a stationary type build, this is the position the unit's going to be in when it takes the most road stress, when it takes the most abuse. When you're sitting in your campground, that should not be the time your unit takes the most abuse. Going 65 down the highway, hitting overpasses, that's when that upper deck's going to take the abuse. So we want the build to be under that type of stress to help prevent any type of issues with the sidewall.
Okay. One thing that I want to point out to folks too, because it's hard for people to visualize this when they see a frame. A lot of people think that the portion of floor that you're standing on in an RV is where this piece of plywood is right here. And that's not true. You're standing on this. So the floor, it actually is about 7 inches sunk into this piece right here, maybe 6 inches sunk in. And the whole point of that is the headroom that you get inside of the upper deck.
Yeah.
So it's not like a gooseneck where people think, hey, you can just have a 12-inch I-beam up here and then put the floor on top of it, because you'd only have like a 4-foot upper deck for ceiling height. So that's the reason why they do that.
Yep. So if you're looking like a front closet, you're always going to see a little step up in there. That's where that's at.
Now, one quick thing I'd like to talk to you about, Nick.
Yes.
Everyone brings up welds. They bring up weld quality. From what you see here in production, because you're here every single day, are you pretty satisfied, honestly, with the quality of welds? Are you pretty satisfied with the quality of product that you're getting?
Honestly, yes.
We can look at some of them. This wasn't staged.
Yeah.
This was just here. So we can look around. We can look at welds. And
Day in and day out, we all could do things cleaner. I mean, this industry is heavily reliant on manpower. There's very little automation in this industry, period. At the end of the day, you know, we don't see frame issues for the vast majority of our units. And when there is an issue, honestly, LCI has a great team across the country of techs that stand by and can get out and help. But I could not tell you a weld failure I have seen on a unit. Honestly, that is something that just does not really happen. So could they be cleaner sometimes? Could there be a little better weld here and there? But I would say, if anything, they err on the side of overbuild, especially with our frame. That's how we've always been. So I just don't see issues with it.
Yeah, like for instance, the only flaw, and I've been looking at this frame as we walked by, the only thing I see right there is that little bit of wire.
Yeah.
But that's cosmetic.
Yeah.
It's purely cosmetic. The reality is exactly what my buddy, who's a certified welding inspector for the oil field industry, which is super, super stringent on what they need to do. If it's a good weld, it doesn't have to be a pretty weld. But at the same time, most of what I'm seeing is a pretty weld. Like, I'm not seeing anything that's glaringly ugly. I'm looking around. I've been looking at this because I know people are going to ask, what do the welds look like? But I'm looking at the welds on here, and I'm not a welding expert, but I'm not seeing anything that's glaringly ugly. I'm not seeing anything that looks like it's a horrible weld. I'm not seeing anything that's standing out, and I'm looking for that because you, my viewers, specifically want me to. And again, everything looks welded up really well. I don't see anything, again, that's just standing out as some glaringly ugly weld. It looks like it's a pretty dang good weld. And I don't know, maybe they do a really good job because you guys put out really high-end units and they want to do it. But I have a feeling that the production welders who build these frames are the same ones who build frames for a lot of other manufacturers as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have a few frame facilities, but we by no means have our own.
Yeah.
So they're building, I don't know what other products, they're getting built, I believe, over in Goshen still. I'm sure they're building for a lot of fifth wheel brands, you know.
But if you take a look at it, like I said, this is the frame on a Riverstone. Right off the bat, you can see things that are done differently. And if you are a Riverstone owner and you watch my channel, I know there's a lot of them. Almost every time, all I hear from people who have purchased Riverstones are that they're great units. They may have some problem. They may have little issues. These are homes on wheels. I mean, everyone knows all the analogies to compare it to. But at the end of the day, this is a great product. They do a really good job. They focus on making sure it's a very structural product. And weight isn't the primary thing that they're concerned about. Because when you focus too much on being lightweight, or trying to make it, like he said, 3/4 ton or 1 ton single rear wheel, you know, towable, you have to compromise somewhere. And oftentimes, how can we get a frame as light as possible to still keep us in a towability range of these other trucks, right?
Yeah, and you can either do it through the materials you're using lighter materials, which to get similar strength and lighter. In some things, it's not possible. In a lot of things, it makes it real expensive. The other option is to go smaller. So when you start getting to 42, 45-foot fifth wheels, there's only so much you can do to lighten them up.
Yep, that's true. Well, Nick, I appreciate it. This is video 1. Don't know how many videos we're going to end up making out here, but we're going to go all the way down the line, and we're going to look at the things that they do differently here at the Riverstone factory. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon.